You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad who has been living in my 1997 Ford van for more than a year. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week's guest is my good friend, Andrea Smith, and we met within the first few weeks of my being in the van. And so in van years, we've been friends for like years already, because van time is totally different from regular time. Andrea has been living her nomadic lifestyle primarily out of her sedan, which is crazy, for a little over a year now, right? You moved in March last year?
Yeah. Now since the pandemic, I have spent a little bit of time at my parents' house just because I felt for my own safety that I should shelter in place for a little bit. But for the most part, yeah, I made it a whole year. And then the universe was like, hey, here's a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really interesting.
Yeah, that's been really interesting because like all of my friends who are in sticks and bricks, are in houses, like they're having their own unique pandemic experiences. And then everybody who's on the road, whether it's, digital nomading all over the world or in vans or, some other form, they were all having totally different experiences as well, just because of the way things have been closed down. But let's talk about pre-pandemic. Let's talk about how you got to the point where you wanted to move into a car anyway. What was life like leading up to that? What happened before?
So I've always been outdoorsy. I've always loved camping. But I didn't really truly consider that as a possible lifestyle for me until I actually went through some really shitty health problems, ended up moving in with my parents, and then as I started to feel better, I started going out and camping again, and it just felt so right. And no matter what was going on with my physical or mental health, there was something about the fresh air and just being out in nature that really fed my soul. So that was a couple of years ago. That's when I first was I was on a camping trip and I was like, what if I tried to do this all the time? And I remember when I first told my parents and they thought it was crazy. But I couldn't get it out of my mind. So a couple of years ago, at the 2019 Rubber Trampers Rendezvous, I had decided that if I could go and camp out of my car in the cold for a couple of weeks, if I could make that work, then I was going to take the plunge. So that's kind of what led up to that.
And that's where we met.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it worked out pretty well for both of us, I would say, since we are both still doing it, still making it work.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was it that gave you that final, I wonder if I could do this all the time. Oh, I don't know. It could be bad. I think I could maybe do this. Oh, I don't know. What was that final push for you that was just all right, I'm going all in. I'm getting rid of my apartment. I'm moving into my car.
I think I recognized how good it was for my mental health.
Yeah.
And it's been a struggle for me for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a peace that comes with being on the road, and it's not necessarily an easier life. It's just that it's more fulfilling for me personally.
Yeah. I think that last word is key. Like it's more fulfilling for you personally. Like everybody's lives are different and your needs are different and this is what works for you and so you should pursue that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were those first few days or weeks like? What was the first I mean you like
Um,
practiced a little bit, you like you'd been camping was good, and then you went out and like tested it at the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous for a while to like make sure. Was there anything different about, when you gave your keys back to the management company and moved into your car that last time, the first time?
yeah, I think when it was finally real, I had a couple weeks of like, oh shit, like, is this the right thing? And I think deep down I knew that it was, and that I like wasn't going to give up. But those first few weeks in my car, like I really noticed the annoying things,
Mm,
like how much extra work it takes to do, I don't know, making dinner or like going to the bathroom or living out of my car, even just to like get something. Sometimes I have to move 5 other things.
yep.
Um, so I really noticed how annoying things were. And I kind of went through this period of emotions that I wasn't expecting. I think I was thinking that once I finally get on the road, I'm just going to immediately feel this sense of peace and everything is going to be so wonderful. And I think we do that in life, right? It's like the grass is always greener, and whenever I can finally do such and such, it's going to be so much better. And that's not really necessarily the reality. It's been very rewarding living on the road, but again, I brought myself with me and I brought all my issues with me. So I think I was a little surprised at first how many feelings that I was feeling that weren't just like wonderful happiness.
I think that is so common, and I completely agree with you that we do it in all aspects of life, whether it's vans or cars or not. Like when I have that job, that title, that income, that relationship, that physique, that, you know, insert whatever it is that you're holding on a pedestal right now. Like when I have that, then I'll be happy. Um, when I achieve this, then life is going to be great forever. And I think that, I mean, especially because you decided finally, like, I'm going to do this because my mental health is so much better. And then to move onto the road and be like, maybe it's not all better. Maybe I still have to like deal with things. I think that's so common and a really good thing to be aware of. And I mean, you persevered and you're still doing it. It wasn't enough to make you change your mind.
No. In fact, I am like dying to get back out there, and it looks like that's going to happen pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the
So
time this goes live.
yeah. um, yeah, I mean, we bring all of our issues and everything with us. So, we've still got to do the work on ourselves. I consider this to be somewhat of a healing journey for me. So it's not like I just moved into my car and like, oh, the healing journey is over. Like honestly, it's like just beginning. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really interesting and a good thing to also be aware of. I mean, you've been doing it now for a little over a year, on and off. Thank you, COVID. Um,
Yeah.
and you're still on that healing journey. I'm sure some things have gotten better, right? Like you have better systems for cooking and washing and organizing your car. I've seen it. It's like a freaking science. You know exactly where
Yeah.
everything is and everything has to have a place. So some things I'm sure have gotten easier, and then some things are still part of the human experience.
Definitely. Yeah. And you figure things out and you figure out how to make things easier, especially talking to other people who are also doing it and getting good ideas from them.
Yeah,
So,
that's key. That was huge for me. I mean, when I went to the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous last year, I moved into my van and I drove there immediately. because I had heard from other vanners that having a community of vanners and talking to other road people was the best way to learn how to be a road person, was to talk to people who had already done it, and surround yourself with that and build your community that way. And that was 100% correct. I learned so much in those few weeks in the desert that would have taken me months to learn on my own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the nomadic community. I've met a lot of really awesome people. Everyone is so supportive. There are rotten eggs in every bunch of people, but like for the most part, I feel like it's a pretty great group. So
I completely agree. One thing that I say all the time is, road people are still people, and not all people are great. But
right.
the majority of human beings, I think, are grand. What have you noticed specifically between, your first few weeks on the road and more recently, like 2020, pre-COVID? What have the impacts been?
The impacts on my life personally.
Yeah, like the longer term effects of having been in your car for more than a year.
Yeah, I think as time went on, I really became even more firm in my decision and like knew that it was the right thing. To the point that I'm like saving up for a van now to make this even more permanent of a thing. I own the car, so it just made sense for me to try and do that first.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's given me a little bit more space to do the healing journey. If that makes sense. Like it just opened up more space in my life to work on myself, work on my happiness, work through my past, all of that good stuff that always seemed like more of a challenge living in the sticks and bricks for whatever reason.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that. I feel the exact same way when I have more physical space, which obviously is not inside the van necessarily, it is the outside.
Yeah.
But when I have more physical space around me, when I'm out in the woods or, just out in the van doing my own thing, I find that I have more energy to focus on the stuff that I want to focus on. And I have, like, physical space gives me mental space. And that's how I work through things. And that's how I, pursue my curiosities. But if I'm stationary for a while in a house, like particularly weather related for me, or COVID related, I find that, the bonuses are really cool, right? Like having electricity on a switch, or having running water, or having
Bathtub.
a bathtub. I really enjoy the oven personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are cool, but they wear off in like 2 or 3 days, and then then I feel trapped and I feel stuck, and I like shrink, and I don't do as much as I should do, as much as I would normally do. And I think that the road has definitely helped me also along that journey. And so I think that's pretty common.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think would be the biggest cons for you? I think the biggest pros have been mental health related.
Um, Cons. So I deal with some chronic health issues, and I would say that trying to get the health care that I need while I'm on the road and like in all these different places has sometimes been tough. Um, I mean, there haven't been a lot of cons. That for me is a big thing to try and juggle. Yeah. I'm like trying to think of more bad things, and I'm like, oh, it's mostly been good.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, the cons would be complicating otherwise simple things,
Right.
but
For sure.
and then yeah, healthcare in this country is a mess in general.
Yes.
But
And
especially if you're
COVID
not,
has revealed that even more if we didn't think before.
yeah,
Yeah, it needs some work for
yeah,
sure.
but it can be done, and you're showing that, if it's worth it to you, if living on the road is worth it to you, if whatever it is worth it to you, you're going to find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think there are any other pros that you want to point out other than the mental health?
Honestly, my physical health, like just the fresh air and the sunshine every day, I do feel a little bit more energized, a little bit less fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in a house, like it's easier to just feel really tired and
Yeah.
I don't know, give in to that more. Um, on the road, like on the road by myself, I have to do certain things to take care of myself and just like survive day to day. And like being forced to do that is like somehow also really helpful, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it
Like I
makes sense.
absolutely, like I don't want to cook and it sucks because I don't want to cook, but I have to eat.
Yeah.
So I have to go do all these things, which then gives me some sort of sense of accomplishment,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it gives
physical
you that.
and mental health benefits.
I agree. I mean, I think that the two of them are so intertwined anyway.
Absolutely.
I think that your mental health can definitely affect your physical health and vice versa. So if you can improve one, the chances of you improving the other are pretty substantial.
Yes, definitely. They're very connected.
What unique ways have you found to sustain life on the road? How do you afford it?
So I personally, I know I've mentioned the physical and mental health. Get Social Security disability, which is usually like just enough to sustain my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I will be completely honest and say that there were some financial pressures, I guess, to not live in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it made a lot of sense to me to try and live out of the car that I owned already.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Um,
No payments.
yeah, so that's how I get by.
And also, earlier this year, pre COVID, you took on a really fun adventure to earn a little extra income,
Yeah, that was really cool. I worked for the Arizona Renaissance Festival selling chocolate.
which I went and visited her at, and it was so much fun, and we'll definitely go back. If you happen to be in a part of the country where there are Renaissance festivals, I highly recommend you go.
So
They
much fun.
It's so much fun, so many characters. The Arizona one, I've only been to two. I went to the one in Colorado maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and then I went to the Arizona one earlier in 2020, and they are both quite large and elaborate. And I think I had the most fun at the Arizona one. It was so good.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that sometimes it was difficult. I had days where I didn't feel good at all, and I just really had to push myself, but it was definitely worth it. So I would do that again.
Yeah. And the Renaissance festivals have kind of a tour that they do, and a lot of the people who work them kind of follow along, and they set up camp um, right by the festival. And I mean, everything's been disrupted this year thanks to COVID.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for some kind of nomadic job, that's an option for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I don't know if it's a super popular option with a lot of van lifers. I haven't met a lot of van lifers who've done it. So, yeah, I would recommend it. Try it out. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely. I think most of those seasonal jobs are uh, for a specific type of person. So earlier in the series here on Deliberate Living, we had Logan Fall. He does wildland firefighting in the summers. Nikki Rothschild does nannying about 3 months at a time. Tom Pence worked in Antarctica seasonally for the last like 8 years. Like, if you want to do something seasonally, there are options out there for you to do it. You can go make it work. Follow your curiosity. And most of these stints are like 3 to 6 months at a time, which is perfect because then if you don't like it, you didn't commit to it for very long.
Right. And with the amount of money that I get each month, it's usually enough to live off of and not necessarily enough to put away. So
Mhm.
that gave me the opportunity to actually be able to save money
Yeah,
towards the van that I am hoping for within maybe the next year or so.
that would be
So,
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it feels good to be a lot closer to that goal now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing I say all of the time is that road life can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you want or need it to be. And I think that, I mean, you're a perfect example of I already had the car. I don't have to make any payments on that. You have a set amount of money coming in each month. So you have to be more mindful with how you travel.
Mhm.
I will tell you all day long that my most expensive bill every month is gas. And I mean, some months I sit still a little more than others. And then my biggest bill is groceries. But like, I spend so much money on gas. And if I traveled slower, like when you and I travel together, we usually hang out in a place for like a week or two. And that's
Mhm.
awesome. I save so much money.
Yeah, and that is something that I did um, throughout my travels last year. I moved pretty slowly.
Hmm.
One, because of the money issue, and two, it just, I don't know, traveling all the time, it kind of takes it out of you. So it's nice to be able to kind of set up somewhere for a while and relax. So, yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. You can travel as quickly or as slowly as you want. You can basically like set up somewhere for 14 whole days if you want to and not move at all. Or you can be moving every single day. So
Yeah.
very it's variable towards what you want out
Yeah.
of it.
That's one of my favorite pieces about it is how customizable this lifestyle can be. I've done all of it. I've done the parts where I drive every single day, like long haul days for 3 or 4 days in a row, and then like a couple of really short days. I've done, the sitting still for a week or two. There are some places that I have seen recently, tell you what, here in Montana, where you can stay 16 days,
That's cool.
which is odd because everywhere else it's 14, but I'm not going to
Right.
complain about it.
No, that's fine with me.
Yeah. And I think that, uh, sometimes it's good to have days where, you work a little bit and then you drive for an hour and get to a new place and explore something new. And, um, just do a little bit of driving every day. But then I also think that there's value in holding still. And I think that anyone who's considering being on the road should try both, see what works, be flexible and fluid, and switch it up as you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have future plans after COVID? I know you're going to get a van. What does that look like? Tell me all the
Um,
things.
so like near future, I've been at my parents' basically since the Renaissance Festival got shut down early because thank you, COVID. Um, I just felt the need to shelter in place at least while it all blew up, to kind of see how things go. I definitely consider myself higher risk. So being out on the road while all of this took place was a little risky for me. So I came home. Um, in the short term, I'm hoping to get out of here within the month. Just it looks to me like we are flattening the curve. Yay!
Yep.
Um, that if I go out and I'm careful, that I'm probably going to be fine.
Hmm.
Um, so I probably will head back west and north-ish, just because the kind of camping that I want to do is much more plentiful. The more west you go, like
Hmm.
the 14-day free BLM camping. Um, yeah, as far as the van, I don't really know what that looks like yet. I just know that I've finally started to put more money away and yay, this could actually happen within like the next year. So I haven't been really seriously looking at vans,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess that's probably the next step. I am always looking for like little part-time things that I could do to make more money. I don't necessarily know how to translate my skills towards that. Like the Renaissance Festival, like I have the skills to do that. Um, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure how the saving money thing looks, but
I
the
think,
process has started at least.
yeah, and that's really what you need, like, is just to start and be deliberate about it and like have that goal in your mind. And it sounds like you have an idea of how much money you want to save or spend, and that's always a good place to start too. Um, and this side of the country where all the free camping is generally has more vans available anyway. Might be a
Yeah.
good place to scope it out. But you don't have any plans to necessarily like leave the road life. It sounds like you're going to be doing this for a little bit.
Hopefully. Yeah. When I think about like having to move into an apartment for any reason, I'm like, that just does not sound like it would be the solution to any of my problems or like help my life in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't make enough money to live that way, even
Yeah.
if I did want to. So, so why would I do that? um, yeah, once I get a van, I'd love to slowly turn it into a beautiful little home that I can live in for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know when I will want to live off of the road again. I'm sure there'll come a day when I'm like an old person. I like settle down somewhere, but I don't feel like that day is anytime soon.
Yeah. I love that. I think you have the right mindset as far as like, I'm going to make this work and I'm going to get creative to make it work. So, you know, keeping your mind open for different opportunities to make a little extra money here and there, or being flexible on what van style you get or how you build it out. I mean, these things, I think if you focus on the end goal and you're flexible about the means of getting there, you're going to be a lot happier anyway and more successful.
Yeah, definitely. And when the time comes, I will trade my car in or sell it to someone. So that will help me financially towards the van.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who is considering leaving their apartment and moving into whatever vehicle they currently have?
I would say try and do it even if you don't necessarily feel ready. Because I feel like sometimes we're not ever going to feel fully ready for that, for these big plunges that we have to take.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're probably going to feel scared, and that's okay. That's totally normal.
Yeah, I still get scared.
Yeah. I mean, kind of living outside of the box it can be scary.
I think living inside the box can be scary too. I think life can be scary
Definitely.
sometimes, and which is worse?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I would say if you really feel like that is a part of your dream and something that you want to pursue, just go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, do plan and be smart about it. So yeah, I would definitely say plan for it as best you can and be as smart as you can about it, but don't feel like everything has to be perfect because that's not how life is. If you wait until you're fully ready and everything is totally 100% perfect, then, it might never happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I hear that all the time. Like, well, I want to go on that trip or uh, apply for that job or have a baby or whatever. And it's like, you're never going to be ready to do those things. So you should probably just, don't be dumb about it. Like plan a little bit, but also don't wait.
Right. I also just want to add that if you have health issues, chronic health or mental health issues, please don't feel like this is not something that you can do. I really want to emphasize that the outdoors is for everyone, and it's been a hugely healing and transformational force in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think nature has a lot of healing capabilities, and I think there's so much that can be said for like the sense of capability and accomplishment that you get when you do something like this. When you're like, oh, I can take care of myself. I can figure out how to solve XYZ problem. Like there's a lot of power in that also.
Yeah. It's definitely super empowering.
Yeah. Sweet.
So,
Awesome. Well, Andrea, if somebody wanted to come find you on the interwebs, I know sometimes you're public and sometimes you're private, but if they want
yeah.
to find you online somewhere, how would they do that?
On Instagram, I am AndreaLouise.87. I believe that it is private right now, but if you request me and you look like you have a neat profile or whatever, I will probably accept that.
Perfect. And I will link to that in the show notes as well.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I really enjoyed this, as always.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I hope you guys got some good nuggets of wisdom out of this interview, and tune in next week for the next one. Have a great day. We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.